if you're watching this, thank you. Today, Kelly Anne Erdman, we'll interview our career in series here. Kelly Anne is a 1992 Team Canada Cycling Olympian and was introduced into the Alberta Sport Hall of Fame in 1999 for her numerous other achievements in the sport of cycling. Kelly Anne has been a team dietitian for various Canadian Olympic teams for well over a decade and for the Calgary Flames from 2004 to 2018. Kelly Anne is also the founder of Health and Performance Nutrition Inc., a sports nutrition practice right here in Kelowna, British Columbia. At that practice, she supports athletes, professionals, and high achievers in unlocking their full potential. And so, with that said, yeah, Kelly, welcome to our little interview series here. Hopefully, if anybody's listening well into the future here, they'll be able to glean some important information, and whether they're pursuing high caliber athletics, coaching, or sports adjacent to them, they'll glean some good information and help them along in the journey. Thank you for joining me here today.
My pleasure.
So was there any little descriptive element in your background that I missed? There sure was a lot. There was numerous different awards and teams that you were a part of.
I guess maybe just to add with that, as a mature individual, too, I did my master's, and I felt that I needed that to bring my career to the next level. So that was 20 years ago, but it was a good thing to do. And then I dabbled in some research. I published about 20 scientific articles in the literature over the years, and yeah, so that's one other thing to add.
Okay, so a proud mother of two, and also a researcher that, and you said, published over 20 articles.
Yeah, when I got my master's in sports supplementation.
Okay, thank you for that. How would you describe your current role or career, where you're at in life?
Yeah, so I'm a registered dietitian, and just a bit of a background, that's like a 4-year undergrad, and then we do a 1-year internship, and that's standard. You have a BSc in the end. Most dietitians end up working in healthcare in a hospital setting or a community clinic. But I branched out to private practice. I wanted to work with specifically athletes as my patients, as my clients. And that's really where my focus has been over the last 30 plus years as a registered dietitian with a specialty in sport nutrition and working with athletes. But it's not a huge market, so I've had to broaden my scope of practice. And I also do some work with private healthcare as well. So that and I've enjoyed that, the variety, actually. So I work with corporate clients who have a different focus for achievement, and but they're still very motivated. So being in private practice, my clients come to me, they're motivated, they want to be better at something in their life, nutrition wise, health wise, performance wise.
Okay. So not only sports then, but also high achievers or high performers in their careers or their lives, but not necessarily related to sport.
Correct. So my clients are exactly a lot of corporate clients, and through the private healthcare work that I do. And then there's individuals just out there that reach out to me through social media contact and word of mouth. And so, yeah, I have a variety of clients. I really enjoy that aspect of my work.
Okay, excellent. Kind of as we go through this interview, it starts with some of these first things, or some of your earlier life and the foundations of how you found yourself on this path. And then we kind of go through education, the beginnings of your career, some challenges, etc. If at any point you don't feel like answering a question or saying pass, by all means, it's no harm, no foul.
No problem.
So the first one here, or I suppose the second question. So what was your upbringing like?
Oh, I would say focused on academics and having goals, being goal focused. I got into sport on my own initiative. My family's not super active. And it was sport that actually led me to dietetics, to be a dietitian. Because for years I competed in sport, track and field, and then I found cycling. I loved it and started racing for Team Canada. And while I was training, I thought, well, I'd like to work with athletes. And so that's where I got into what would be an area to focus on with athletes and performance, and passionate about nutrition, and I went that route. But my family was supportive of my cycling and my career path, and I guess I came from a family of high achievers, and going to university was part of what you did. It wasn't if, it's what are you going to take? So, and the
Okay.
support was there. So yeah, education has been a strong part of my focus and continues with our children. And our daughter has her master's degree, and our son, yeah, also has an undergraduate degree. So yeah, good support from the family.
Okay, so extremely supportive of pursuing higher education. And it said that they, or you said that they were supportive of cycling and sports once you got into it, it sounded like, but initially was it something like, as long as it doesn't interfere with your education? It,
Well, back in the day when I was bike racing, women were just starting to become professional cyclists and making a career out of it. And
yeah,
most of us that were racing back then had jobs while we raced. And so we, had extra income, even though we would have Sport Canada funding for as an athlete, as a carded athlete when you race well at the Worlds. But um, with my family, they always looked at sport as my recreation, and I've been able to use sport to help me excel as a professional. So there's been many benefits to it and credibility and working with athletes. So I've been able to build on that sport career as a recreational athlete who competed at a high level. I competed at 7 world championships, Olympics, Pan Am Games, Commonwealth Games. But to me, I was the dietitian who was a cyclist, and now cyclists are cyclists. That's what they do. That's their job. So it is a slightly different focus. And back then, as you say, things were starting to change with actually making a living at it. I left cycling after 1992. I just wanted to focus on my career. I was ready at
yeah,
that point. Yeah. But so I discovered sport. It was through coaching in grade school. I can tell you there's a couple coaches in my life that were the ones that got me hooked in sport and were very supportive and kept me going. So coaching has a huge impact on my life. Yeah.
okay. Thank you for that. How did some early challenges influence your worldview?
Early challenges with my career.
Yeah, I suppose with your career or with cycling, which is, sort of your career to a degree.
Mhm.
Really, maybe we could phrase it, is there any significant challenge along the way in either of those that just come top of mind? One that you'd like to speak to?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard trying to train full time as an athlete and then also trying to set up a career. It was a challenge, and that was one of the reasons why I went to private practice so that I wouldn't be locked into a hospital job that I couldn't
Okay.
leave to train. And so I've been able to multitask and prioritize when I need to train and when I need to turn the switch and be the dietitian. But I would find it sometimes challenging. I'd be on a ride and I'd be thinking about work and things I need to do, and but as again, back then we're doing multitasking. It's great to be able just to focus and say, give everything you have as an athlete. And in some ways, I guess I regret that I didn't stick around longer and wait for another Olympic cycle. But I just was also anxious to get going with my career too. So yeah, it's hard to multitask. That would be a challenge for sure. And then as a dietitian, I was a pioneer with what I did. There was really, like, there was no information out there on sport nutrition except a few textbooks, a few like journal articles, but it was also new. I had to become literally self-taught with, and then as an athlete, having gone through all the testing in a lab as an athlete, they test your VO2 and all these physiological tests. I could understand the terminology, and it allowed me then to be able to work with athletes and understand the physiology. And then I started to learn, I tried to learn more about it. And just for interest, I took some phys ed courses in kinesiology to have a better understanding. And then that's when I thought, oh, let's just go for it and I'll do my master's eventually.
Okay. So at the start, where it was cycling and kind of dabbling into being a dietitian, the challenge was just finding time for the two and bisecting these two parts of your life. And like you're like training as an Olympian and in these high performance cycling, it's all or nothing. And then you found that your mind was sometimes drifting towards like a particular client or a particular case that you were working on, and it was difficult to prioritize all the time, or to that mental shift between the two was a challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're compassionate working with people and trying to give them support and direction, they're always on your mind and you're thinking about how can I be better? How can I help that client? How can I break through? How can I help to motivate them? And so, yeah, this it's always, as a healthcare provider, you're always thinking about your clients and how we can work with them and collaborate with them and help them achieve their goals. But yeah, definitely there would be distractions because I wasn't 100% just the athlete. So
Yeah.
yeah, I remember, training on the velodrome. I specialize on the cycling track, and had a tough client with a disordered eating, and I had to really just try to refocus and get through this workout. And you worry about your patients.
Mhm. And you were saying that it was both a challenge and somewhat of a strength as well, two sides of the same coin, where you were so on the bleeding edge of sports nutrition as you were going through this at this particular time, that you were actively learning all about the VO2 max. I don't know what else would have been unknown at that time or kind of bleeding edge. Uh, Glycogen or anaerobic exercise or what have you. You'd be able to better speak to that. But as you were learning these things, like being on the bleeding edge was both a challenge, but then you were also staying riding that wave, and so it was helping you day to day in your practice as well.
Absolutely. And, in hindsight, I wished I knew more nutritionally as an athlete when I was competing compared to after the fact. But it really helped me to relate to athletes when someone has a challenge like eating on competition day. Often the nerves can be hard to manage. And so just having that direct experience as an athlete, understanding what it's like to compete, what it's like to travel, and prioritize your training and your nutrition and everything that goes with that, like that definitely helped me to gain respect of what an athlete's life is about. And some of those challenges I could, address it firsthand. But I also, when I work with athletes, I break it down sport by sport, event by event, to really learn as much as I can about the person and in what area can I be most impactful to help them. So the dietitian side of me has given me those skills, very thorough with the understanding, like athletes have medical issues, they have health issues. It's not just all performance. And if you're
Yeah.
not healthy to start with, you'll never perform at your best. So understanding the um, what it takes from a physiological health perspective has totally been beneficial working with athletes.
Okay. Get that background. Would would your younger self be surprised that you became both a sports dietitian and a coach and a top performing cyclist? And
No, I don't think so.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm
I
talking perhaps below the age of 10.
don't think I really started to get the drive until about 12 years of age or older when I really started to get passionate. And that was through some coaches that really got me motivated to strive to be my best. Yeah, I would say it was more of into my teens when I thought, okay, I can do this. This is what I want to. Yeah. Initially, I mean, I was looking at biochemistry as an area of study, and then I thought, oh, it's just too much science. There's not enough people to work with. I would rather, work with clients around the biochemistry of digestion versus being in a lab as a biochemist. So I've always had that science interest background for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say versus the social sciences are, yeah.
Okay. So around the age of 12, like you found yourself in contact with really influential coaches, and that helped inspire you to, one day maybe I'll be a coach or have this type of influence in someone else's life. And then that whole time you're interested in the biochemistry of it, and dietetics is a lot of biochemistry and food reactions and stuff. What what about cycling specifically? Would your younger self be surprised by that, or when did you first become interested in cycling?
Um, I did my first bike race after high school, but I had been competitive in track and field, gosh, from I would say about 10 years of age and up until 18. I competed on a track club. So I would go to train 5 days a week, but I did my first bike race after high school. And I seemed to be pretty good at it right away. And I think that was because of all the discipline that I had from track and field training and going to run indoors 2 hours a day, 5 days a week with my track club, that I understood what it's like to train. And I just switched when getting the results right away. My first bike race was a citizen race where it was just people with running shoes and jumped on the bike. And I went to the first corner, crashed a guy, took him out, and then took off and won the race. And there was men and women, so I felt, oh, this is very cool. And then I just got into more and more into that. At university, my first year, I was on the track team, cross country running team. I was just starting to dabble into bike racing. And that's when I just fell out of love with running and became more passionate about the cycling world. Yeah. But again, I miss summer sport. So I would be gone racing most of the summer, but then back to my academics in the fall and the winter terms. So I was able to do that combination and then just keep fit in the winter months, even though in Edmonton it's hard to ride outside. But I did. I ride my bike every day to school, to university.
Get the winter tires on it or the
I
studded
did.
tires.
Yeah. And we didn't have helmets back then. And I would be like,
Really?
yeah, Main Street up on a road with yeah, a backpack, 35 minutes to school, out and back.
And as someone looking from the outside in, like starting and then becoming an Olympian and these other like very high class races that you took part in, to start the sport at 18 or 19 or 20, what you just said there, that seems quite late in today's age. Like normally, I don't follow these things closely, but it seems like people who are these top performing athletes normally start these sports when they're 10, 11, 12, and they kind of by the time they're 18 and 19, they're pretty close to their prime, and they're maybe a few years out from that, but like that's when they
It's true.
begin to peak. And so yeah, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like did
For
that?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the years of track and field training helped to build my engine and my work ethic and commitment to training and competing. So because I was doing sport on a regular basis and I had some great coaches to influence me there, they're just simply switching to the bike. I just took, because I was running in circles as a track athlete and now I'm cycling in circles. So in a way it was similar for sure, but the long-term athlete development model that people talk about now, it's just get kids in sport at a young age. And you're right, like swimmers don't start when they're 18. They start when they're 4 years of age. And, by 12, they're training twice a day. So definitely building that engine, building the work ethic, the commitment. It does start. There's at a young age. There's very few people that become Olympians at starting after 16 years of age in sport, any sport. But there's a lot of athletes that transfer into different sports. And we have that now with the RBC training ground program, where we have an athlete come from alpine skiing, all of a sudden they're Olympic cyclist in 4 years, and or they become a rower. So we're seeing that crossover, and we're doing testing across the country with athletes to figure out, where would they excel their best. And it's a great system, and it's definitely successful at recruiting athletes and have produced Olympic medalists from it.
Okay.
But you're right, it doesn't start at an older age. It's the long-term athlete development. Just get active, and more the studies say do a variety of sports. Like I also play community basketball,
Yeah.
and my parents had me out golfing. That was their activity, was golf. So I mean, all these things build confidence, skills, focus, goals. I used to sit on a golf course and do 3 holes and stick off, right? Just to work on skills and be better, and those kinds of things, right? That yeah, the passion comes within, but it's transferable in so many levels.
So like the, I don't necessarily want to call them soft skills, but those things that you just said, like discipline, management, these other things associated with all these other skills are perhaps more important than just refining a particular movement in one skill or in one sport, like repetition, repetition, repetition. You said
Exactly.
you called it like the drive and the engine, like that. It's better to develop those than it is necessarily to, maybe the engine would be the particular set of skills in a particular sport, but the drive would go across sports.
For sure. But the engine, I'm really referring to more the cardiovascular system, the
Okay.
lungs, the lung capacity, the blood volume, like everything from hemoglobin to you really can't change your muscle fiber type.
Mhm.
But but you learn through racing and training what your skills are, and areas to work on. But yeah, the engine is building that aerobic capacity at a young age, and that's you just get up and get moving and doing stuff. That's if someone's compassionate or about passionate about sport. Maybe it's arts, maybe it's other areas, and people learn other skills and focus on. It's very similar.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you for that. If is there a habit or routine from your earlier life as you're going up through high school or university and that's compounded into a major strength in your career?
Yeah, one thing that I found with my career is just to be resilient and relentless. So
Mhm.
I was focused on becoming a sport dietitian. There was no one around me, but I would gear all my projects as a student, as a dietetic intern to be a dietitian. I would gear all my projects around sport nutrition topics so that I could learn as much as possible. And then I just started knocking on doors. And there's one particular clinic that I wanted to be in when I moved to Calgary, and it was a sport medicine clinic. And I kept
Mhm.
contacting the director repeatedly until finally, yep, they created a spot for me. So just, really wanted to make that happen. And then knocking on doors and reaching out to coaches to work with teams was, another one. It's just constant. It takes energy to build a practice. It takes
Mhm.
energy and commitment, and not giving up. And sometimes you may not get the opportunity that you're looking for, but and how that could help too. But I would say uh, never say never. I don't know what the word can't means. joke about that a lot in our household. What is that word? I've never heard of it before. Cannot. What is that?
Okay. So yeah, just a fierce commitment then to pursuing your goals and not settling for anything less than that.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't want the easy street, and I just didn't have the passion to work as just purely in healthcare in a hospital setting. That just wasn't for me. And had I not found a private practice to set up, I probably would have changed careers, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think maybe I would have loved to be a teacher, and that could have been an alternative, because I do a lot when I'm speaking and giving workshops. I'm teaching, I'm educating, I'm thinking of creative ways to get a message across to athletes. I'm constantly engaging in a form of education with my clients.
It reminds me, I just came across this quote. I forget who said it just a couple weeks ago or a month ago, but essentially what it was you get out of life what you settle for or what you accept. And that there's not too many examples of people who, as long as you, exactly what you just said, as long as you're relentless and just don't settle for something that you don't prefer, it might take longer than you would expect it to or prefer to hit a goal, but as long as you keep striving towards it, you will eventually get there or pretty darn close. And so yeah, it sounds like that's exactly what you found to be true in your life.
Absolutely. I just kept trying to pursue a sport nutrition practice and learn as much as I can, be creative, knocking on doors. So back in the day, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media for marketing. It was the Yellow Pages. This is a book that had everyone's phone number in it, and you would advertise in the phone book. When people would look, how do I, right? Through a landline, we would contact people.
Yeah.
Right?
I have early memories of the landline and the big yellow phone book, and you get them every year and stuff. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like forever ago that those were around.
It's there. It's just all virtual. Yeah, it's all same. There's so many other ways of advertising and marketing. I would say, and I think that's one of the areas of challenge now, is because anyone can publish and post, but it's not always credible. So the public are at risk of some of the misinformation that's out there from non-credible sources. And it's so I would say the area of practice now is switched to buying message and that might be shared. And that's so different from, of course, I would say in the last 15 years where it's taken off with people. I remember someone talking
Today when it comes to social media marketing or just the message that you're putting out there. In contrast to your earlier career where you were on the bleeding edge, it was more so discovery, maybe some offensive moves and finding these things. Now it's more difficult in the sense where you're not trying to pick up the coattails of these other folks that are out there that are maybe spreading misinformation and trying to stamp up these little fires that are going around that might be harmful to people.
Absolutely. And everyone wants to define what's the best fit for them. And it's great to see the kind of information that people, or questions that people are asking. And but as a dietitian, it's scary when people are latching on to messages that could even be harmful to them when they're not coming from a credible source.
Yeah, certainly. Is there one in particular that you're thinking of that's on your mind, like a very pervasive one that you find really really strongly goes against what's correct or anything that's really is there an example you're thinking of as you say that?
Well, nutrition, there's always trends, right?
Yeah.
And ketogenic was popular 5 years ago, and now it's high protein and intermittent fasting. And yeah, I mean, there's the trends. I've been around so long, I'm seeing them cycle back. The trends from 30 years ago are coming back and just repackaged. So,
Yeah.
but it's just explaining to clients that the physiology and trying to talk about the science behind some of these claims. I guess the biggest one, current one, might be intermittent fasting that people are using, and the pros and cons to it. And I do respect some aspects of it, but it does contradict the message that we say with high performance athletes. We're trying to be muscular and put muscle on, whereby we say athletes need to eat about every 3 or 4 hours to support muscle mass. And with intermittent fasting, someone might go 16, 18 hours without eating. And that definitely contradicts the science behind performance nutrition. So I would be wary with that with an athlete. And but it's important to understand, the pros and cons to it. And I guess the one benefit of IF, intermittent fasting, is it's got a lot of people to stop their snacking at night, which may or may not, which might be a good thing in many cases. And so it can be good for blood sugar, and to go 12 hours without eating, give your digestive system a break. I agree with that, but now I'm hearing people doing 24+ hour fasts, and that is just not healthy for us.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. It was more offensive before. I never thought of that perspective, Timothy, that before I used to be, sending out messages. I still am, but very proactive about that. And now definitely having to be more defensive because of so much information that's circulating, putting out fires for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and are you active on social media, or what? How do you get those messages out?
Bare minimum, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll definitely clip this up together, and we'll have some clips to put on your social media or website or what have you.
That sounds great.
What in your industry, you might have just answered this, but I suppose not, like, because the people putting out the fires and this kind of FUD about various things about nutrition, I wouldn't really consider them necessarily in the industry. But in people who are aligned with you in your industry, is there a controversial opinion that you hold that challenges the status quo? And how did you arrive at it?
Something controversial from a nutrition perspective?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
not encapsulating the influencers or the fad diet type of people, but
Yeah.
dietitians and the like.
But we may have, difference of opinion around effective use of supplementation. Some people might just say food first and exclusively food to support athletes, but my foundation is around food, but I can see there are some benefits to key supplements supporting training as well as competition. So that's probably the hottest topic where there may be some debate around which supplements and why, and maybe people are choosing to avoid supplementation for ethical reasons, or if an athlete is competing, we do have to worry that their supplements are completely clean and free of banned substances. So an athlete doesn't test positive, because if you're prescribing an athlete take a supplement, and if they test positive because there's undeclared ingredients in that product causing them to test positive, you can equally be banned from sport as a care provider to that athlete.
Oh, okay.
So there is a risk if you're advocating certain things. So maybe that's why some dietitians would choose to say, well, just don't go there. But when I think of the stress that athletes put on their bodies, and can they eat enough and enough quality food to support their recovery without having to use supplementation? Most cases, yes, but there are performance supplements that do potentially have their place.
And what are some common supplements that you see like athletes taking? Is it things like creatine whey protein powder. I don't even know if that would be considered a supplement, or would that just be considered food?
Well, I mean, whey does come from milk, so it's not synthetic in a lab for sure, but it would be considered a supplement. But you're right.
Yeah.
Creatine, glutamine, um, even beetroot people are taking, of course, protein, different electrolytes. Yeah. And then, I'm always a bit skeptical around a person promoting particular supplements, and are they selling that product? And that would be top of mind as well. And also, if someone is promoting a product, what does the research say behind it? What's the application of that research? Are there men and women involved in the studies, or is it just an elite group that was involved in the study where that supplement was found to be beneficial? So those would be the kinds of things that I would investigate. Someone just shared a supplement. Oh goodness, the other day, I can't remember specifically, but the gist was that this supplement is great from 4-year-olds to 7-year-olds. First question I have is, who would give ethical permission to run a supplement test with a 4-year-old? So how can they make this claim? Because there's no data that would exist. You can't run a study with a 4-year-old on a sports supplement. Something, it was actually a supplement for brain health. But those are the kinds of things that just red flags in my mind, right? But it keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you, you need to have an open mind for what's new out there and what are different approaches. And maybe there are supplements out there that we haven't even discovered that can have performance benefits. So we do need to look at the research, good studies, that give us that information to be able to make good conclusions.
Yeah. And do you find with the supplements, is it often clients coming to you and saying, "Hey, I heard of this new thing called creatine or whey protein powder. What are your thoughts on it?" Or is it you seeing a client and they really need to increase their blood oxygen levels, and I think is it beetroot that can
You're
maybe help
right.
do that?
You're
Like
right.
okay, beetroot might help this client. Like what's out there, and then you present it to them in your next session. Is it a mix of both?
Honestly, it's a mix of both. Many of my clients have done some research or looking into different topics and would be interested if a particular supplement would be advantageous. And we break it down and look at, okay, what are your strengths and weaknesses as an athlete? Where can you be better? Is it your power output? Is it your recovery? And then what is your event itself? Is it beach volleyball? Is it soccer? Break it down and then look at, all right, which supplements may be helpful, and what does the science say? What's the dosing like? And experimenting with one at a time. So we try to minimize the variables. Yep. So
Yeah.
a client may come to me with those questions about specific supplements they've heard about, and or I may present, okay, what have you thought about, like you said, beetroot, and you're training for ultra distance trail running events. Why don't we look at that and pick some
Yeah.
lower key events to experiment and try it out and get that feedback.
Okay. Excellent. What's your favorite part of the job?
I would say honestly, the variety. So I see a variety of clients with different nutrition goals, and it's almost like you're an investigator and you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I help this person? And I also I like the variety of taking a different approach. When I work with accountants, they want the numbers. Tell me they want to know their macros, grams per kg. I can talk that language. And
Yeah.
then, when I work with someone else who's been dieting forever and they don't want to talk calories, they just want to look at being more mindful about their nutrition. I can go that route, and that's more the psychology of eating and understanding eating behaviors. So it's a huge variety of what I see with clients, and I do enjoy that. And also trying to read from body language through to asking questions. Are they understanding what I'm saying? And to try to figure out which is the best approach to take for each client, because they're all unique.
Okay. So So you've outlined the variety of it, and then that comes with like being able to pursue maybe some curiosities about people, how they relate to food, some things like that that you get enjoyment out of, like these little puzzles to solve. Not that the people are, a puzzle, so to say, but their particular set of challenges and circumstances. It's kind of fascinating to you, and it has this revolving door of variety and newness to it, or novelness to it. Um, and helping people, reach their goals, seeing that satisfaction, uh, and that sense of accomplishment, if and when they strive and reach those goals of theirs. Um, okay, but did I miss anything?
No, and sometimes it can be pretty daunting for a client, and um, they want to be better. You don't want to overwhelm them with a million things to do. So maybe just one, making small steps can make a big difference, and learning from that. And I, I want to kind of avoid the all or nothing and make all these changes. Or,
Yeah,
if you're not perfect with all these changes, don't bother coming back for follow-up. It's crazy. It's little changes. How can we get better, and not to be hard on themselves, and learn when they have setbacks, as we all do. What did I learn from that experience? And what would I have done differently? How could I have handled that differently? Maybe it's a social eating situation, for example. What else could I have done to have avoided? And then also, people are pretty hard on themselves, and again, try not to beat themselves up over not achieving their goals, and to be realistic, and small changes are well worth it.
yeah, certainly. I can definitely attest to that. Sometimes with the little experiments that my clients will do, I'll say, look, it's better to be confident that you can like do some of these things than the size of it. So I'll be like, even if you feel so embarrassed that you've only committed to this small little step, it might even feel embarrassing that you can only manage to do that confidently or consistently. But yeah, certainly small steps are better than no steps at all.
Yeah, and even if we do step backwards, that's okay. If we learn
Yeah,
from it and acknowledge what could I have done differently. And yeah, it's all about yeah, not being hard on ourselves, but
yeah.
just recognizing that we're not always perfect, and there will be setbacks. Yeah, and just continue to trying to move forward.
So so I suppose another part of the enjoyable parts of your job then is just being that supportive person in their life that, as they come in, whether it's a setback or that they're coming in celebrating a goal that they've hit or what have you, anywhere along that process, it's, you know, knowing that you're a reliable, consistent person that's going to treat them with respect regardless of where they're coming from.
Yeah. And Timothy, I have some clients that I've been working with for over 30 years,
Yeah,
and I'll see them twice a year, just as a follow-up, as an accountability piece, checking in, and
yeah.
it just helps to keep that momentum going, and that just shows you over 30 years how things have changed. So there's still always something to talk about, and there's always new stuff in the nutrition world. So, but yeah, that continued support.
Let's see, this conversation has eaten up a few of my other questions. Was along the way, and it's somewhat related to that one where particular challenges that you had along the way. And so you outlined, just this like living these dual lives as a high performing Olympian and just starting out on your private practice, and then also being on the bleeding edge of a brand new career field, and also wanting to do the best by your clients, and while kind of riding that wave. But in line with that, or maybe adjacent to it, what's the hardest decision you've ever had to make, and how did it test your values?
Hmm. I can't think of hardest decision.
or perhaps
I don't
an,
know.
an an inflection point in your life where you can think back and that was quite the old me or a different life from that point onward.
I mean, hard decisions would be around deciding when it's time to stop working with a team or a group of athletes. And that would be like when I worked with women's hockey for 7 Olympics and five of
Yeah.
those gold medals. And then after 2022, it's time. We've been together for 7 Olympics. That would be
And
a
that would
hard
be
decision for me
like
is to
seven
just,
times four. Would that be like 28 years
yeah,
you worked with that team?
yeah. From well, even longer than that because of the changeover with the Winter Olympics. 1998 was the first Olympics with them up until 2022. Yeah, 24 years. 24
Wow.
years with that team. So, yeah, that was difficult to say it's time. You need a new dietitian. It's time to move on. And yeah, that would be an example and of one of those challenges. Um, But the hardest thing I think for me as being a dietitian is to maybe stay focused and not to spread myself too thin.
Mhm.
It's hard to say no to opportunity when you're passionate about an area, but but you need to say, okay, am I doing the best that I can, being too spread out with too many things? So I think there's at times in my career when I should have said no, it's not in my best interest, but I find it hard to say no. And so then I would take more and more on. And did I do my best in all my areas by doing that? I don't know. Hard to say, but that might have been one thing that I would have done differently is, yeah, when you're in
Like,
private practice and you know your clients are your income as well, it's also hard to turn things down because you don't know what's my next month going to be like for opportunity if I
yeah,
say no to this, right?
yeah, certainly.
So that can make it a challenge to just maybe take on too much sometimes.
Mm. Have some more defined boundaries or
Yeah,
yeah, and then you begin to question yourself. Like, I get the sense that you would have tried your best regardless of if you had
yeah,
10 things on your plate or eight, but then, of course, just those 10 things are more dilutive. And so your best, yeah.
yeah. I mean, we can only do so much, right? So yeah.
Yeah. It kind of coming back to that decision you made to leave the Canadian Olympic team after multiple decades of working with them. Like, how can you walk us through that decision?
Well, I mean, there just comes a time and a place when we need a new messenger. We need a new person to come in with new ideas and new approach to work with the team. And that's many of the athletes that were on the women's hockey team for those Olympics ended up being coaches and administrators within Hockey Canada. So I continue to work with them as professionals as well as athletes. Mind you, now they are professional athletes in women's hockey. But yeah, so I just felt that it's time. It was time to part ways and for them to source someone new to work with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find it similar to like other teams that you've been a part of and it moved on from or passed the reins to another? Like, was it a similar reason as someone who works with a team like that? Like, get a fresh set of eyes in here or a
Yeah,
fresh mind or what have you?
absolutely. And everyone has a different approach, and that's good for the team to see a different approach, a different style. Yeah. The message may be the same, but the delivery and then the rapport, that's important too, right? Don't always connect with everyone on the team and maybe some of those team players needed a different source too for information.
Yeah. Okay. What uh what was your most significant achievement out of all of yours?
Well, when I was in Calgary and I did my master's degree, it was on sports supplementation. There was nothing published around what athletes, what drives an athlete to take supplements. There was nothing published around who's telling them what to take. Why are they taking these supplements? What's their priority for its supplementation? Do they take more in their training versus competition? All the studies around had been based on this is what athletes take, period. So
Mhm.
getting into more of the asking these questions behind athletes' choices with supplementation was I was one of the first to publish in that topic area. And
Interesting.
and we broke it down based on performance level, gender, different types of sports, just to see, what's the difference. So that was very interesting, and that was a highlight in my career for sure. And then based on that, we actually ended up setting up a supplement program where we batch tested all the supplements for all the Calgary Olympic athletes because we didn't have a great source of a tested supplement program. And so that was a consequence of my research to say, yes, athletes are taking supplements and they're high risk of banned substances in these products. Let's start being aggressive. Supplementation is not going away. Let's really make sure that our athletes are taking clean supplements.
Okay.
So that was a big outcome, and they still run that program today. I've left Calgary 3.5 years ago, and that program has been running since 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another one that I also set up, we hired a chef to provide meals to the athletes and cooking instruction. Gosh, this was around 2002, around the Olympics in Salt Lake City. And
Okay.
this chef eventually started cooking more and more with the athletes. And next thing you know, we actually started running a restaurant at the University of Calgary in the food court, and we opened it up to all university students. And the athletes got a discount. It was called Fuel for Gold.
Okay.
Yeah, and so yeah, based on just bringing out a chef to start cooking with women, the Canadian women's hockey team was where we started, teaching them how to prepare meals. And then this snowballed into an actual restaurant and catering business. And now we're hosting World Cup speed skating events at the Olympic Oval at University of Calgary. So it flourished. COVID hit and we had to close it down because there was no one at
Oh,
school and we lost the business. But it ran, gosh, I guess the business started up probably 2008 until 22.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool.
Is
Fuel for gold.
there any hope of getting it back?
I don't think so. We've yeah, now that no, the Olympic teams have all moved out to Winsport, which is off campus. We still have speed skaters on campus at the University of Calgary, but I don't see our Canadian Sport Institute to go back to running that business.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was fun when it lasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like quite unexpected starting out. Just like doing some studies around why do athletes do supplementation and looking at their meals or the quality of their food to running a full-fledged restaurant on campus for umpteen umpteen decades.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So you mentioned that you had some really influential coaches earlier in your life, in like middle school or high school. Um, so how have some of these relationships and just other relationships in your life, whether it's your spouse, your children, other coaches, teammates, how have they shaped your journey?
Yeah, just coaches are such motivators and great communicators. Um, they know how to work with athletes individually. And yeah, I've just had some great coaches that would really work above and beyond their program to meet you after hours, to work with you individually that way. So, and then to this day, when I'm my cycling coach is still a very good friend, and all my teammates, and we get together probably as a team every 1 or 2 years, and that's all focused around my teammates and the coach. So become family. I mean, you travel together, you live together, in housing with your coach. So it's you share a lot. You go through a lot emotionally, ups and downs. Yep. So yeah, coaches have been amazing with their support and commitment.
Okay. Support and commitment. What about friends and family that are outside of sport, perhaps, or just not as competitive into sport? How about those relationships?
Yeah, it's just great to have good communication with those in those situations, with my relationships, with listening to each other and supporting each other through friendship, and just being compassionate and compare and with friends and family, and always open communication and listening, and just that ongoing support, really. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's no different in helping people to make healthy choices, and just constant open dialogue, I think, is the key. And so that people aren't feeling judged and can share their emotions and work together.
Okay. So from like all areas of life, then just the relationships in your life, the thing that you value the most is just people around you that are supportive towards the direction that you're going in, and whether it's a setback or an accomplishment along the way, just people that will be there for you regardless, and to share the ups and the downs with.
Yeah, and also learning from each other, and it works both ways, that we're supportive of each other, and being that listener and helping others to achieve their success, whatever that means. Is that in career? Is that in their relationships? Just yeah, ongoing outside of sport. My world is a sport focus. My kids are active in sport, and my spouse is active, so our friends that we hang out with. So
Mhm.
I do have a bit of a bias towards the sport focus to this day.
Yeah,
You
same.
know, I hang out more with my teammates that I bike raced with than my high school friends.
Hmm.
So yeah, sport has been huge in my life.
Excellent. Um, we're almost at the end here. A few more questions to be had. Are you still good on time?
Yeah, I need to leave in about 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay. Here, I'll quick some, or I'll cut down some of these. Hmm. Let's see. What are what are your plans for the next chapter?
Yeah, I'm currently working with a couple of dietitians, and mentoring a little bit, sharing information with them, and passing that on is my goal now as a dietitian, working with others, and sharing case study examples, and just yeah, trying to help out, learn to transfer of information.
Okay. Do you see that going on, like, or increasingly so into the future as the years go on, to becoming more of a guide or mentor in your field?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not that
Yeah.
you aren't already, but taking
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
more of those types of roles.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm on a board of directors with a cycling group, and so that's also getting back to sport. We've been funding junior athletes for Cycling Canada to get to world championships and other events. So I'm doing that in the cycling world as well. And yeah, it's the educating people and supporting people in a different way now. Career has peaked, I say, peaked around in the 20-ish, and Yep. So, but still practicing, but trying to say no more so to opportunity, being more selective. And really that's my goal right now, is working with other dietitians and helping in that capacity.
Okay. This next one's kind of a funny question, but in a what if scenario and society faced a major crisis, how would your background prepare you to contribute, and what advice would you give to the world?
If there was a major crisis, I mean,
And
I'm thinking we need food to survive. That's the first thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah. How can we start sourcing our own and growing our own and being self-sustaining in a crisis?
okay. I think I'd want to be around you. I would definitely want to eat in a world sort of scenario. Um, if you could give anybody going into your profession, and whether that's coaching, high level sports or dietetics, some advice, what would it be?
Well, decide what your goals are, first of all. Where do I envision myself? What's the focus that I want to take? If it is in the world of sport nutrition, which sports should I start with? Do I really know a lot about tennis or soccer or volleyball, and learn as much as you can about the given sport or sports that you want to work with? Learn the terminology, understand the training, time of day, understand competition, and really be super engaged in that sport.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, start to approach that sport about being their dietitian, their sport dietitian, to work with them. So it's, I remember one of the first presentations that I gave with bobsleigh, and I've got them confused in my mind with luge for a fraction of a second. And in luge, you're laying on the sled, you push with your knuckles, and you flop back on your back and your feet first. Versus skeleton. It was skeleton and luge I was confused with, because skeleton, you run and you dive head first on your sled.
Hmm.
And just a little bit of confusion at the beginning of a workshop. Well, I might as well have walked out of the room, because I lost everyone's credibility. All my credibility was shut up right away, just from that confusion and that mental lapse and not being focused. Or maybe I wasn't quite sure about the sports. Maybe back, I don't know. I don't remember. But
Yeah.
my point is, know the sport, know it well, thorough. It just gives you more credibility walking in to be able to talk their language.
Okay. And you mentioned there, learn about it, and when you're ready, then approach it. Do you have any advice on how someone can know whether or not they're ready enough or have done enough of that background information to make the call to say, I can now work with this team, at least at an amateur level?
Well, that would be kind of a personal one, to know when do you have the confidence moving forward. Um, Maybe you could do some role playing with someone to see if that could help. To someone could ask you questions about the sport, just to maybe test your knowledge base a little bit. Um, reach out to another dietitian or someone that's worked with that sport, and yeah, maybe some role playing. And yeah, that's a tough one, right? When are you ready, right?
Yeah, it is very
It's so
personal.
subjective. It is.
Like when you feel confident, but yeah, it's you know, everybody's going to be different. But okay, yeah. So doing some role play, seeking out some resources in the community that maybe can help say, hey, yeah, maybe continue to work on this part, or oh, you're doing great, and give you a little bit of extra reassurance. Um, so we've got two more questions left.
Sure.
Did you learn anything about yourself during this interview?
Um, I guess, yeah, I don't know
And
so
it's
much.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, just it's fun to share, and yeah, no, I don't know that I that I did so much.
Yep.
I can't really think about, yeah.
Yeah, sure. The next one. So this is something I'm trying to start on these interviews. So it's a pay it forward challenge to the next guest. And so here, would you like to create the challenge for the next guest first, or hear what your challenge is? And you don't have to do it on the camera or anything, but just something to take away from this interview and to participate in if you so choose. Uh, on
Okay,
your own. Would you rather hear what that is first
sure.
or create the challenge for the next person? Okay.
Let me hear
Um,
first.
so this comes from my friend, actually, Chris Burgess. He is a lacrosse coach with Lacrosse New Brunswick and has been an avid lacrosse player for ever since we started playing it together when we were, 12 or so. And me and him have been best friends going way back. And so his challenge to you, and he didn't know who I was interviewing or anything like that, but it was just the next guest. It was to have a hard conversation that you need to have, and to do it now or to do it soon. That's a conversation with a partner, with a friend, like a colleague, some hard conversation that may or may not have been on your mind, and whether in the background or what have you, but to do it now and to do it sooner than later. That's his challenge to you.
Okay,
Um, and then so yeah, the pay it forward challenge
yeah,
is so it's to the next. So Chris's values were hard work, open-mindedness, and communication.
yeah.
Um, so based on one of your most prominent values, I think I might have skipped over this question as we kind of sped it up here a little bit,
Okay,
but it's the pay it forward challenge is to the next guest to boost their involvement in their life based on your most prominent values that you really love and appreciate about yourself. And so if you could list maybe 1 to 3 of those values about yourself that you really appreciate, you really love, you love demonstrating to the world. And if someone asked about who Kelly Anne is, you would hope that they'd comment these 1, 2, 3 known for that you demonstrate, and then make some sort of challenge to the next guest that maybe by doing this challenge they can uphold or come close to these values.
so I would think being compassionate will be the challenge, paying it forward to the next person, looking at what are they compassionate about? Is that a challenge, Timothy, in your mind, or
What are they compassionate about?
it's a question, but is that enough of a challenge? Communication would be another one. Someone, a good listener, as well as being able to provide a message that the client, the athlete, the patient is able to implement or understand. So to
Sorry,
me, it's,
understandable way.
so just in the communication, first being a good listener, to the client, whoever they're working with, and then being, so that's part of being compassionate too, understanding it, and then just making sure that they're providing an effective, valuable education or message that's really tailored to the needs of that person. Like, is it really customized and achievable when we're providing support to someone, whatever that support is.
Okay.
So maybe more on the communication piece, listening and interpreting and understanding, being compassionate, and then being able to provide that support in a very practical, realistic way, measurable.
Trying to think, like, how can we blend that with, being compassionate, paying something forward, and it sounds like some sort of effective custom communication to something that individual is compassionate about, or to some person or to some group. How can they pay that forward?
The outcome of that communication, like what is the outcome of that understanding, and whether that's an education piece or that's support for the person, basically being the listener, making interpretation of the situation. Too. There's different ways to be supportive.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of ways to be supportive. I'm almost thinking of whether it's if it's something that the next guest is compassionate about or passionate for, and whether or not it's related to their career, just something out in the community that they like, if they like coffee or the SPCA or what have you.
Totally.
Perhaps sitting down with somebody in that field or that sector or going through that thing, and either having a conversation with them or doing some sort of act to help that field. Whether it's some sort of thing on social media, or sitting down with somebody with a coffee, or helping to maybe share with somebody else why they are compassionate about that thing, and share it with a friend or a family member, or somebody that maybe somebody that they would consider a friend or a family, but that might not be that interested in that thing that they have a lot of passion for.
Right.
And so kind of introduce this person in their life to this thing that they're interested in about.
And why it's so important to them.
Yeah.
And
Does that seem
yep,
reasonable?
I think so.
Introduce. I think whoever gets that one's going to be very excited for that one. Great.
Well, that's awesome. This is great. Thank you so much for doing this. And
No, and thank you for thank you for sitting down with me the past hour and a half almost, and doing this interview. I think I hope some people will be able to glean some bits of good information out there, and some find some direction in their life, and some support from your words, your journey, how you came to be, some of the things that you overcame, or considerations that you had to contend with and decide one way or another. Why did you pursue that? And I hope it'll help them at some point.
thanks. Hope so.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Timothy. You have a great day.
Yeah, you as well there, Kelly Anne.
Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.